Hello there, and welcome to today's training on the essential skills for navigating working in a virtual environment. So today, what I'm specifically going to be covering is how to reduce Zoom fatigue or the online meeting fatigue, how to have highly effective online meetings, and then also how to make real connections, because it is very challenging, right, in a virtual space to really make the same type of or level of connections that you can make in an actual, working environment. So I'm going to cover five main points really quickly here. And the first one is basically to have a conducive working environment. So what I mean by that is if you are working from home, make sure that you are, as much as possible, taking away any distractions. So that could be clutter, it could be making sure that you have enough lighting as well in your space so you feel better about the space that you're in. But it's also about removing distractions like a phone call or turning off Slack notifications or things like that. You want to make sure that the environment is set up so that you can really just be focused and present when you are in those Zoom meetings. So that's the one thing. Number two is, let's talk about between meetings, right? So between meetings, to avoid or reduce the amount of Zoom fatigue that you have, one of the things that I would do, and this is something that I practice every day because I work pretty much 100% virtually, is just simply taking my eyes off the focus of the camera, so off the short view here, and just looking out of the window. So you might not have a window that's in front of you, but just even training your eye to not just focus on the short distance, but also looking further out is going to be really really effective. So I would just focus on your breathing. So take a couple of deep breaths, and just focus your eyes somewhere else outside of your short view, and also just maybe take a walk. Even if you have a couple of minutes between meetings, walk away from your desk for a second, go get something to drink, go look outside the window, go take a breath of fresh air, something that's going to disconnect you from that constant, the fatigue that comes with being in the front of the computer for long amounts of time. So that's what I would do. And then number three is, what do you do before the meetings, right? To prep so that you're reducing, again, that anxiety that can come from sitting in front of the computer all day long. So one thing that can really be helpful here is to know what's expected of you during the meeting, know what's the agenda, what is being discussed, and specifically, what is your role in that meeting? What's going to help you to prepare, knowing what is expected of you in that meeting? If you can cover those things, I guarantee you, not only is the meeting going to be more effective, but you're also going to feel less anxious about what might come up if you feel a little bit more prepared and you have the opportunity to do this. This thing can take as little as 60 seconds. Sometimes before I go into a meeting, it just takes me 60 seconds to mentally prepare for, okay, this is the meeting, this is what the expectation is, here's a couple of questions or a couple of points that I want to keep in mind for the meeting. So it doesn't have to take a ton of time, but mentally it can really just put you in a good headspace so that you feel more confident going into those meetings. Okay, so the other thing to think about between those meetings and before you even go into a Zoom meeting or an online meeting is what can be taken care of through asynchronous communication. So in other words, what can be communicated outside of those meetings, or what can happen between the Zoom meetings that can make that particular meeting more effective. So if there's something that can be shared before the meeting that can maybe help that meeting be more efficient and take less time, that's always optimal. So thinking about before the meeting, what can you prep, what can be shared, what can you ask, what information can you ask for that might make that time even more effective and also give you some time back in your day as well. Then the next thing I'm going to talk about, point number 4, is during the meeting. So one of the things you want to do when you are in front of the camera like this, like I am right now, is you don't want to look at yourself. So you want to minimize the window where you see yourself and just make sure that you're focusing and looking into the camera, but also paying attention to body language and cues and things like that. So that's not an easy thing to do. And this is something that I help my clients navigate as well, like how to really be present and mindful during the meeting. But of course, removing distractions is going to be one of the things that's really key as well, so that you can really just focus and look into the camera, but also pay attention when you're not speaking, paying attention to cues and to what other people are saying, and looking at that camera view so you can see their body language and how they're communicating as well. And I know this is, a lot of times this can lead to Zoom fatigue, right? When you're constantly looking in the camera and you feel like the spotlight is on you, because in a virtual space, unfortunately, it's just the nature of what it is. That's the way our bodies react. It's like the spotlight is on us, and at any point in time, people can focus on us. So we have to be always on and always present. That's why some of the other things that I talked about is so important, so that you can reduce that meeting time. But in the meantime, you also don't want to pay so much attention to looking at yourself and all of that, but you want to make sure that you're looking into the camera and you're paying attention to other people's, when they're speaking, you're looking at them as well, so you can get those nonverbal cues. So that's during the meeting. And then the last thing is building relationships. I was asked this specifically recently about how do you build relationships in a virtual a virtual space, right? So it is very challenging to do in a, in a group meeting when you have several people in the meeting. But what I always focus on, or I coach my clients on, is how to build those relationships outside of the Zoom meeting, so that when you have the meeting, not only is that meeting more effective because you already have those relationships built, but over time, because you're developing those relationships, you know what works well for that person. You know what they're going to be asking you. What are the things that they focus on? So you can try to reduce the time, during the meeting. But also, it makes a communication, and it reduces the chance for friction and conflict and all of those things when you really do pay attention to building those relationships, even if you're in a virtual space. So that's another thing that I teach my clients, how to do that really effectively and connect with people, so that by the time you get into a meeting setting where you have multiple people on a Zoom meeting or an online meeting, it's just becomes so much more effective. You already have those relationships, you already build the trust and rapport and all of that, so your Zoom meetings become a lot more effective. So I hope those 5 tips have been really helpful to you. I'll go over them just really quickly to recap. Number 1 is having a conducive environment to work in and removing any distractions. Number 2 is having those breaks between meetings. Like, what are the things that you can focus on between those meetings that are going to make it really effective? So having breaks, getting the right information, feeling prepared, all of that. Then number 3 is, the number 2 is breaks between the meetings. And number 3 is, what do you do before the meeting to prepare? Number 4 is, what do you do during the meeting to make it more effective? And also so that to help you really focus and be present. And then number 5 is building relationships in a virtual space. So that is it. That is all I have for you today. I hope that was helpful. If it is, please go ahead and let me know in the comments below. Let me know what you're taking away and what was helpful to you. And also, I would love to know if you have any thoughts on this. What are some things that you do that maybe are really effective that could help others as well? So thank you so much. If you'd like to chat more about this or anything else that could be really helpful to you, feel free to reach out to me, and I'm happy to have a free call with you and have a conversation and get to know you a little bit better as well. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.